Welcome to the Livfiit Listens podcast, a safe space of growth, personal development, and overall wellness with your host, Olivia Catania. Diving into the realms of all things health, conscious living, mental expansion, and much more, this podcast is designed to help you evolve into your best self and live fit. Let's get into the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Livfiit Listens podcast. I hope everyone is doing well. I just have to say I had first of all, it's 2:22 p.m. as I'm recording this. But second of all, I had such a freaking good day yesterday, and it was totally just a little bit of a self-care rejuvenation day. I mean, in the beginning of the day, I finished recording a YouTube vlog, got that posted, which I always feel so accomplished when I get a YouTube video up. Then I actually booked a massage, okay, which I thought that I hadn't had one in a couple of years, but then I'm realizing that's totally a lie because I actually did get two while I was in Bali, but I just mean I haven't gotten one while here in the US. And I was like, you know what, just because they seem like a good chunk of money for a massage, but I have to say I bit the bullet. I did one yesterday and it was genuinely so worth it. I feel so good. My back is always so tight and my shoulders and my chest and it made me realize that I really should be pouring more into my recovery and health in that way. So I'm thinking that's going to be something I do once a month potentially, but I love that. Then I got a smoothie. Okay. Then my boyfriend was with me throughout this whole thing. And then afterwards we hung out and then we went and played some golf and then we went and got some delicious sushi and then we got some candy at the grocery store and chilled and watched a movie. And I was so tired. I think the massage relaxed me so much. I literally was just falling asleep from from 10 p.m. I literally could not keep my eyes open, and I got a beautiful luscious 9 hours of sleep. So it was really a great day yesterday. But so that takes me to my gratitude for this episode. Honestly, that massage, I'm so grateful for that massage. It was everything I could have ever imagined and dreamed of, and the massage therapist did exactly what I wanted him to do. And he was just the best. He was awesome. For today's episode, I don't really know why. I've been wanting to do an episode on anger and releasing it for a while now. And for whatever reason, it just came over me the other day of it's time to do this. So I want to talk all about releasing anger and really just gaining control specifically of your reactions. And again, I want to preface that this is coming from a girly who really used to struggle with anger and being so frustrated and really having big reactions and emotions. I'm someone who's always been very emotional. And so of course with that makes me be very reactional, just because I have these really big emotions. So especially as a kid, oh my gosh, and even in my teenage years, all of that, I would get so angry and so frustrated. And I'm someone, when I get very emotionally overwhelmed, I close up and I shut down. And so when I would get upset about something, I would just literally have a temper tantrum, but in the sense of completely closing up, not talking to anyone. And I remember it was so hard to get out of that anger because then I would be so angry. I wouldn't talk to anyone. Literally, I would give the silent treatment, but then I wouldn't know how to exit being in that space because then it would be almost embarrassing. I couldn't swallow my pride to be okay, I'm not angry anymore. I didn't know, I just don't know how to explain it. I just didn't know how to handle the transition from feeling anger and then actually clearing those emotions and moving forward constructively. So I hated when I actually would get angry and get in that silent isolation phase because then I just didn't know how to swallow my pride and start talking to everyone again and say that I wasn't angry anymore. And this was definitely very much so in the realm of my family, but also I even remember, I have a memory from my freshman year of college. I remember I got so frustrated and I was around people and I just was what? Not in the moment, but looking back now, I'm yeah, even then I still struggled with getting angry and worked up over things. Again, I just was very reactory because I just am such an emotional person, which this then translates to why I'm so passionate about my morning routine and journaling and affirmations and meditation, because quite literally it does the world for me if I'm able to actually start the day with literally emotional regulation and getting myself in order, and kind of touching base and doing some nervous system work. Because if I don't do that, I'm just so much more reactionary throughout the day. I'm way more emotional and I'm way more emotionally vulnerable is what I want to say. I fluctuate way more throughout the day. So that's a big reason why I do these tools in the morning to regulate myself, to set myself up for success, calm myself, ground myself so I can be more level-headed and stable throughout the day. So again, I really want to make that clear of like I'm speaking about this from someone who used to really struggle with this, and now I'm telling you, like, I genuinely rarely get angry. Like, I will get upset about things like, darn bum, but like I won't get I rarely, again, I really rarely get actually angry and like aggressive and like feeling like I'm having these out of control reactions. And my quality of life is so much better since like really taking a hold of these reactions and taking a hold of my emotions. Because again, the thing is, if you aren't intentional with regulation and if you don't have awareness of your emotions and how to properly cope and deal with them and channel them, you're gonna just be going all over the place. So I just feel so much more confident. I feel so much more stable, cool, calm, and collected. And it's just a way better place to be. And I don't really know how else to say it other than it's just hot to have emotional control and regulation, okay? Especially now since, like I'm saying, how much growth that I've gone through. Looking back, I'm like now in present moment, I really like when my emotions do run away from me, I'm like, Liv, like it makes me kind of like cringe. And I just really what helps me have more adherence and discipline with my reaction and with emotional regulation is how much I don't want to feel the way I do when I'm emotionally out of control and when I'm angry. Because I feel, like I'm saying, out of control, it genuinely feels like embarrassing. It feels immature. It feels kind of like pathetic is the word that I want to use. Again, I'm not trying to like be coming at anyone listening. And if you're triggered, I'm sorry. It's more so just like, this is how I feel. And these are things that help me. This kind of perspective is the perspective I hold now that helps me be way more diligent with my reactions and like taking a hold of my emotions. So yeah, I don't like living that way anymore. Now when I do kind of have my emotions run away from me, it's like a very big obvious red alarm that goes off in my brain of like, okay, girl, like we need to come back to earth, go over our tools, because now this has become my new normal. I've basically shifted my reactionary pattern and my thought process to now have a habit of taking the emotional regulated route as opposed to just a completely reactionary route. Okay, so learning how to control yourself in these situations is huge. And especially now, like I'm in my mid-20s, I know I have quite a few adults that listen to this podcast. It's like, especially the older you get, having emotional control and maintaining composure is truly power. Like I promise you, especially from situations I've been in, the more that I've learned, like the more composed and emotionally regulated and stable and sure a person is, the more power you hold and the more stable you are and the more established you then come across. The more emotionally reactive you are or the more aggressive you are, the more you blow up, like people will not take you seriously. First of all, they will see you as immature. And second of all, it's just not a professional way to go about things. And this is in work and out of the workplace as well. This will also, of course, impact your personal relationships. And it makes it really hard to have a healthy, constructive relationship in your personal life with someone who is so emotional, who reacts so aggressively in an emotional way, or someone who gets angry all the time or aggressive over the smallest things. This is something that I honestly feel like is a life skill that everyone needs to master. Like it should be a prerequisite to life, because it will either, depending on your skill set with this, it'll either completely negatively impact your relationships, romantically, platonically, familially, or it will also impact your relationships in the workplace or even your ability to progress in the workplace. I promise you, sitting in the seat of composure is where power is, and where respect lies as well from other people. So the first thing that I want to say, I really don't even have a very strict outline with this episode, but the first thing that I want to talk about to help with releasing your anger and gaining more control of your reactions is first and foremost to create space with your emotions. This was something that I learned when I was quite a bit younger, and it really changed my perspective on a lot of things. Also, I always recommend this book, but it was literally the first ever self-help kind of spiritual book I ever read. It's called The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. It is linked in the show notes in my Amazon storefront under books. Literally, this is like my Bible for everyone. It was the first time it made me realize, I should say, that your thoughts and your feelings are not automatically truth. And when we're younger, especially in our teenage years, early 20s, we really identify with our emotions. We literally think it means something about us. We think it's defining something about us. We think it's absolute. We think it's truth. We think it is our experience. It's kind of like how I want to explain it is like if you're in a movie theater that you don't even realize you're like in a theater watching a movie, like you think that movie is quite literally like your life and your current experience. Like think about back in the day. I don't even know if they still do 3D movies where you used to wear the 3D glasses and it feels like you're in the movie. Like when you have awareness with your emotions and actually create this space, you can realize, oh wait, I'm wearing 3D glasses. I can take these glasses off. I'm actually not this movie that's going on. I'm simply the observer of the movie. I'm the person sitting in the movie theater watching the movie. I'm not actually the person. I'm not the character in the movie that's experiencing all these things firsthand. So when I was able to really put in that association, it created separation between me and my emotions. And I understood more so that like I am not angry. It's more so I feel angry. And there's very much so a difference between those two things. And when you identify so closely with your emotions, or when you are so close to your emotions mentally, energetically, emotionally, it clouds your judgment, it clouds your awareness. You don't even realize how much you are intertwining yourself in that emotion. When you realize, okay, wait, I'm just experiencing this emotion, it allows you to be able to take a step back and gives you an extra second to think, okay, this is something I'm experiencing. Now, how do I want to actually cope with this and move forward? The biggest thing that I see when people are so reactionary is that they're literally being, I don't know how else to say it other than this creating space kind of verbiage. Like when people they're so close to their emotions metaphorically, they don't see that it's just something that they're experiencing, and then they react way bigger than they need to, rather than taking a constructive kind of route to cope with it, to handle it, to funnel them into something more productive. Okay, here's kind of another example. Because again, I really used to feel this when I was younger. When I was angry, it almost was like I was looking through the lens of anger. Okay, like picture like we're putting on a pair of glasses. It's like I put on my angry glasses and I was just completely living through that lens all the time. That emotion of anger was tainting everything around me, was tainting my thought process, my reactions, my emotions, everything. Whereas opposed to now when I create space, I'm realizing, oh, I have angry glasses on. I'm going to take those glasses off. And now I'm holding the anger. I'm looking at my angry glasses and I'm able to create, that's like the analogy of creating space, rather completely like identifying it and becoming one with your emotions and being so close to them. Literally picture it like as instead of, we don't want to be wearing our angry glasses where we're identifying with looking through everything with that lens. We want to think of it as I'm holding my angry glasses. I'm able to create space. Okay, now I'm looking at this from a third person. Now, how do I want to move forward? That simple perspective shift and separation of identity goes a really long way of not, again, identifying with your emotions, which again, when you do that, that's what leads to this really a reactory state, because then you're turning it into this defensive thing, because again, you're taking it personally, like you need to defend yourself in some way because you think it's saying something about you or whatever it is. When you create the space, you can look at it from more of a like business sense rather than like taking it from a personal lens, if that makes sense. More so in an objective manner. That's the word that I was looking for. So kind of my second thing I want to say with that is when you realize you don't need to identify with your emotions, that's when everything changes. And that's kind of what I mean when previously a lot of people tend to make their emotions mean something about them. They take it on as themselves and they just take it as if they're fighting a fight with someone. I also think this basically pulls the plug, because I think if I always kind of use the word energize, because where we place our attention and where we place our energy literally is everything. Energy is our currency. So when we feel quote unquote angry about something and we identify with that, we make it something mean something about us, that's when we energize the situation and it blows up into this huge thing. Another thing a visual I'm thinking of is like, you know, those really flowy things outside of car dealerships that have air blowing down the bottom, up the bottom of it, and it's like doing this big wavy thing in the air. You energizing your anger, or essentially you feeding into it, you identifying with it, you being so close to your anger, that's like you puffing up the air off of this really, I don't even know what they're called, off of those like mascot looking people, the wavy people in front of a car dealership, and it makes that person stand up, meaning you're energizing that anger, you're making it bigger than it is. Whereas opposed to if you can create space, if you can actually have awareness of what's going on, if you can look at it objectively that rather than personally, you will stop blowing the air up of that. I can't even finish the analogy because I don't even know what he's called. But you know what I'm saying? It will stop. When you do that, it pulls the plug on that air generator thing that blows up the bottom of that car dealership mascot. And then what happens when there's no air blowing up him? He completely just falls over and he's like this little kite looking thing on the pile on the floor. That's exactly what happens with emotion. So it's like when you don't energize your reactions, that's how you don't give power. That's when you don't give power to it, which essentially makes it null and void and not as big of a deal. And I think that's a huge thing that people don't have the awareness about, is that they're not realizing how much they themselves are energizing their emotions and therefore their reactions. This is another point where I kind of want people to work backwards. They think that something happens and that completely warrants and is the reason why they're having this reaction, when that's really not the case. That's not why they're having the reaction. They're having that reaction about something because they've decided that's what their reaction is. It's the same thing why two people can experience the exact same situation and both people can have two completely different outcomes and takeaways because of their perception and what they think that means, right? So it's the same thing if I were to apply to a job and I didn't get it, someone might be like, see, this is awful. I'm not going anywhere. Like, I'm not worth anything. I have no talent, etc., etc. That person made that situation mean something bad, that they're not going anywhere. They gave that meaning to that scenario. They gave that takeaway, that feedback from that scenario. They internalized it, and that's what fueled their reaction that they had, right? Even though they're thinking, who's small-minded, who doesn't have the awareness, they're thinking in their brain, no, I feel this way because I didn't get the job. That's what this means. When if they took a step back, they would realize, oh, I'm actually the one giving this situation that meaning. Whereas if we take the flip, person number 2, they apply for a job, they didn't get it. Maybe instead their takeaway is, okay, damn, this is kind of a bummer, but I just know that this means something better is on its way to me. Awesome. This means something that's more aligned is coming my way. Okay, this is what I'm saying. They both had the exact same situation happen to them, but they both gave it different meanings, and that's what then fueled their reactions. This is what I'm saying. It's not inherently the situation that's forcing you to have this reaction and these emotions. You aren't even realizing it because, again, you're so close to your emotions. You're so close to your beliefs. You're not realizing you're looking at things through your own glasses that you don't even realize you're assigning meanings to these objective situations that are happening in life that are then fueling your reaction. So if you want a different reaction, put more effort into having awareness and putting a meaning that's self-serving to you. Same thing, something smaller. If we were sitting in traffic, someone could be like, this is so annoying. I'm wasting time. I don't want to sit here. Whereas opposed to person number 2 could be like, sitting in traffic, this is perfect. I have more time to listen to a podcast or catch up on my audiobook or maybe do a few emails while I'm sitting in standstill traffic. Boom. Both are experiencing the same thing, but are instilling different takeaways in that experience, which is then giving them a different reaction, and they're then able to reframe their reactions in a different way. So instead of thinking, I'm sitting here in traffic, you can reframe that reaction and say, this is perfect. Now I have time to do things that I wouldn't normally actually sit down and do. That's what I mean, where we are truly the ones giving power to things. We are energizing things. And again, awareness is what's going to make you understand this concept, which then takes me to our 4th thing that we're on. I'm not even really sure. 4th one that I have is to slow down and have the awareness. And this is a perfect example of how and when and where to do that, okay? When we are moving a million miles an hour, when we are not actually slowing down, when we're not being curious and we're not questioning things, when we're not kind of swallowing our pride a little bit and having more of an observatory lens at things, if we're not careful, that's when we're going to end up identifying with our emotions, and that's when we're going to end up completely living life with our fear glasses on, with our angry glasses on, with whatever it is, and we're not even going to have the awareness that that's the way that we're living. So creating space is something that really helps me have that awareness, because again, it's kind of like, again, circling back to our analogy at the beginning of the episode, when I have awareness, that's kind of the equivalent of me realizing, oh, okay, I'm not in the movie, I'm in the movie theater. Great. Now I'm actually going to be able to watch and observe from this perspective, as opposed to the perspective I previously was in, which was literally from the character's eyes, right? The character's first person POV. So when I have awareness, it makes me be able to look at things from a different perspective, and a perspective that's usually in third person, and usually in a perspective that is more cool, calm, and collected. When I say third person, I just more so mean kind of like a bird's eye view. You know, when a friend comes to you and they're like, I'm so upset because of XYZ, and this happened at work, and then she did this and she did this. And maybe when she's talking to you, you're like, okay, well, now I'm seeing it from an outsider's perspective, and I kind of think this takeaway makes more sense, or maybe you weren't seeing this blind spot, and they're like, oh my gosh, you're right, like I actually didn't even think of the situation that way. That is exactly what I mean with having awareness and taking that bird's eye view approach with yourself. I promise you, this is something that 99% of humanity does not do in our present day society. And this simple thing, that's really not that hard. It's just simply an awareness factor of like knowing something that you didn't know before and now you know it, and actually living from this way and having a little bit of discipline with it. You will be so far ahead and have such a higher awareness, understanding, and perspective of what's going on than 99% of people. Because again, this is just something that majority of people overlook. And also kind of a part with this is that a lot of people almost don't want to swallow their ego and their pride to be able to get to look at things from this lens. I think kind of what again, circling back to the beginning of the episode, when I said when I was younger, I couldn't, it was embarrassing for me. Which in the moment, that wasn't the word that I wouldn't have necessarily known. I felt embarrassed, but just for whatever reason, when I was younger, it was so hard for me to, again, swallow my pride and be like, okay, guys, I'm not angry anymore. I'm over it. It felt like something I had to be angry with forever, because if I decided not to be angry anymore, it invalidated my initial response, I think is what it was. Yes, I can see how that could be invalidating to someone's experience, but at the same time, it's I think that comes with also having the higher awareness of we have permission to change our minds, and we also have permission to change the way that we feel. And I think carrying this concept also with other people and giving them more grace will help you give yourself more grace, just in the sense of allowing other people to change their mind, of allowing other people to change their emotions, and allowing other people to improve and go forward. This doesn't have to mean anything about you of oh, you failed, you screwed up, you have to be embarrassed and be shameful of having a big reaction and now you can't look back. There's something really respectful and mature about being able to say, okay, honestly, I kind of let my emotions run away from me. I've had time to kind of think and create some space and gain some awareness. In hindsight, I understand X, Y, and Z happened, and this is my solution going forward. Even something like that, literally taking accountability in that way gives you, again, so much respect. It's so mature, and people are really, really, really going to appreciate that. And again, it's not something you'll have to do forever and ever, but even just you doing that a few times when you catch yourself having these big emotional reactions that aren't in alignment with the way you know your higher self would act, just doing that a few times will be enough even to help you rewrite and create a new habit of how you react, and will allow you to generate a new habit of just taking a little bit of extra time before you react. And actually, that's another thing I want to talk about as well is, well, I guess that is kind of with what I already said, slowing down. My other tip for you is just to take some more time of when you feel a big emotion coming. This doesn't need to be something drastic. Literally, if you feel yourself, which is going to come from having awareness, right? We need to make sure that we're being very aware, very attentive, very paying attention to detail within ourselves and with our emotions. When you feel a big emotion coming up and you feel yourself getting very angry, literally the most powerful thing you can do, especially if you're someone who is very reactionary and emotional, is you can say, hey, okay, I'm sorry, I'm feeling a lot of emotions right now. I just need a couple minutes to take some breaths and cool down, and I'll circle back with you in a second. Literally absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think that's a boss ass move to do. I think for me, I mean, clearly I'm someone who loves emotional regulation and emotional intelligence. And so if my boyfriend said that to me, or if my friend said that to me, I'd be like, girl, Letty, you are so fucking hot. I don't even think I've ever said the F word on here. Anyway, you are so hot. You take your time. And I would respect what they were about to say 10 times more. I'm listening so much more. Also, other reason why is because when you're not so reactory with someone, you literally take the fight away from the conversation. And when you do that, that takes everyone's guards down, which is what you want when you actually want a cohesive, constructive conversation. When you're just reactory and you're yelling at someone or coming aggressively at someone or you're super emotional, that just leads to this like combustion of energy, of emotions, of all of these things that are never really constructive or conducive to the goal. So when you're able to say, okay, I need some time to take a break or to take a breath, oh my gosh, that completely de-energizes the situation. It allows the dust to settle. It lets everyone take off their freaking fighting gloves and have actually a constructive conversation. So that's also freaking huge. But slowing down when you feel your emotions coming up and bubbling, literally just take a break. It doesn't even need to be a whole big thing. Literally just simply you saying, oh my gosh, I'm feeling angry, and you having that awareness of I'm feeling anger. Take one breath. You are so much in a more level-headed space of how to move forward. And it goes such a long way. So that's another thing. Slow down. And just take a break. Take a second before you actually speak from when you actually feel that emotion, because then you will allow actually something constructive to come out of your mouth rather than something completely emotional. And then another thing that I want to say, especially for a place to start this when you're by yourself. I understand, again, what I was saying previously of how when you're with other people, you're already feeling angry or emotional. I totally understand it can be hard to be vulnerable and to be humble in that way of saying, you know what, I'm sorry, that was a little, I was overreacting, or my emotions kind of took over me. I can understand it's not always the easy, comfortable thing to do there. So what I would recommend is to start with things and feelings and situations when you're with yourself and practice that emotional regulation. Practice that awareness of saying, oh wait, I'm just experiencing anger right now. Great. Simply having ping, I just had the awareness. Ping number 2, now that I'm aware, I can create the space for my emotions. And ping number 3, now I can understand that I don't need to identify with this emotion. It's just something that I'm experiencing. Now, how do I want to handle this emotion, this thing that I'm feeling within me, so that I can then pass through, I can clear it, and then I can go forward. That's another thing, is when we don't do that, what happens with our emotions are just energy in motion, emotion, okay? And so when we don't actually process those things, because what happens is a lot of people aren't necessarily even recognizing the emotion that they're actually feeling, right? So then this thing just festers up in them and it's energizing them in ways they can't even really understand. And that's when they have this unexplainable outburst of reaction that's not really constructive. So simply being able to have the awareness of like, I'm feeling this big emotion is X, recognizing that, then you can allow yourself to feel it, validate it, say, great, I feel angry, I'm sorry, anger. And literally I'm picturing like all the little emotions from Inside Out, that movie. Like, thank you, anger. Thank you for being here. I understand. You're riled up. Totally get it. I'm going to handle it. You can move forward now. Now anger feels heard and they can leave your body. Because what happens is when you don't do that, that anger is just continuing to fester in you and it lives in you because you never actually acknowledged it, recognized it, and allowed it then to clear and be able to move forward. So I just can't stress enough how important it is to recognize what you're feeling, because then you can allow it to feel seen and heard and recognized and validated, but then you can pull the plug on it and then it can actually clear out of you, which is what we're wanting, so it doesn't just chronically live within you. So circling back, I keep going on so many side tangents. This is what happens when I don't have an outline. I just speak I channel whatever is coming through to me. But anyway, circling back, practicing alone goes a really long way. That's what I was saying with, okay, I'm back. Pinging those things of like, okay, having the awareness of how you're feeling, creating the space from your emotion, realizing you don't need to identify with it, and then you can change how you actually process with it. So this is something, I will literally do this on the smallest scales with myself, but like you can try it when you're in traffic. You're starting to feel frustrated. Boom, you can understand. I'm acknowledging I'm feeling frustrated. This is just something I'm experiencing. I don't need to identify with it. How can I actually reframe the scenario to be working for me so that I can then reframe this emotion of frustration or anger or impatience to how this situation is actually now serving me, and then move forward. This even happened to me the other day, like the toilet paper thing, like completely unraveled all over the place. And for a second I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so annoying. And then literally simply me recognizing like, it turns it into a spiritual experience, but it's like, I remember I take that third person view and I'm like, oh wait, haha, like this, life's a game. This is just me in a meat suit. Like it's just such a small thing if you think about it in the grand scheme of all these little things that frustrate us on the day to day. Like they're literally so insignificant, but yet we give them so much power and meaning and significance because we quite literally have nothing better to do, honest to God, because we're not fighting for our survival anymore like the freaking caveman ages. But so I understand that's a small example. Like, I know there's bigger things that people get angry about, like things at work or their partner, but it also does translate to these small things like sitting in traffic or having something tip over, you spilled a glass of milk, like all these things, they all still contribute to these really reactionary, I don't even know if reactionary is a word. I think it is. Reactionary emotions and situations when they don't need to have that much power over us. So again, smart with small things. That's, I guess, another example. If something goes wrong when you're cooking or you spill a glass of water, whatever it is, focus on gaining control of your reactions then. Having a greater awareness and perspective of your reactions then will then build a greater habit for regulating yourself, for being more skilled in how to handle when these emotions come up, so that you then will be able to be way more grounded and focused going forward when you are with other people. So again, start with baby steps, start with things when people aren't even around you. This is reminding me of a quote. I remember this is on the back of my 8th grade basketball coach's t-shirt one time. It says, character is what you do when no one is watching. And it's awesome. It's such a great quote. And so it starts with things that you're doing by yourself. And I think that's when people don't really realize, they don't really care to necessarily work on things when it doesn't involve other people. But I promise you, how you treat yourself, what you do when you're alone, quite literally in terms of emotional regulation habits, your actual actions-based habits, your thoughts, your beliefs, your habits, all of these things, whatever you do alone, again, whether it's to yourself or actionary steps, will completely be translated in your relationships with other people and how you show up to work, even if not in a direct way. Indirectly, you will 100% find them influencing how you show up in other areas of your life. So it does matter 100% how you react when you're alone. Start with those small things, and then you'll be able to build up to them, and they'll be able to be more of a habit and a pattern and more of your baseline default way of handling big emotions when you are in bigger experiences with people and more important kind of situations and disagreements and whatever it is. Okay, so that's kind of all that I have. Nothing else is really coming through. Again, I didn't really write much down. I hope I wasn't jumping too all over the place. I still hope this was helpful. I hope you were able to follow along. But again, I like doing a little summary because I've realized, since I'm a big podcast consumer, I kind of like a little bit of like a refresh summary at the end to like have it be fresh in my brain before I exit the podcast of like, okay, these are all the main points. So basically, number one, it's hot to have emotional regulation, okay, and emotional control. First thing you want to do is to actually have the awareness of how you're feeling, be able to recognize that, validate that, so then it can clear and move on. Then you want to create that space between you and your emotions. You are not your emotions, right? You are just wearing anger glasses or whatever it is. So remember, you can take off those glasses so you don't need to look through everything from that lens of anger. Again, recognize that you are not in the movie. You are not the POV person, main character in the movie. You are the person watching, observing the movie. So create that space between you and your emotions. You don't need to identify your emotions is the next one. Okay, your emotions don't need to mean something about you. And then from there, you can take more constructive action of how you want to deal with these things. Go slow down. Have some time in between your initial feeling of these big emotions and what actually comes out of your mouth next. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you saying, you know what, I need to take a few minutes to collect myself before we move forward. Again, we love that. The person is going to really respect what you have to say next. And also, there's nothing wrong if you do have a big reaction. There's nothing wrong in you changing your mind, rerouting, reframing, and saying, actually, I'm sorry, my emotions got the best of me. I'm able to handle this now from a calmer XYZ standpoint. That's also something that's super mature, super respectable. And it's totally okay to swallow your pride and take that step, because that is what your higher self would do. And that's just part of the process of constructing better habits of how you deal with big emotions. And lastly, start with smaller situations when you're alone by yourself, because again, how you regulate, how you handle your emotions and your reactions alone are always going to somehow in some way impact other areas of your life. So start small with smaller scenarios with only yourself of how you react to things like being in traffic or a spilt glass of milk, and hone in on really gaining control and awareness of your emotional reactions then, because it will translate and help you with creating a better habit to reacting to bigger scenarios, okay? I love you so much. This is, again, I can't stress how important this is. When someone has emotional control, I'm like, girl, you are hot, you have it together, you are well composed, and that's just sexy, okay? So we love that. huge life skill that will give you a superpower over the majority and of the masses. So for the affirmation for today, I am well composed with my emotions and reactions. I am well composed with my emotions and reactions. And again, don't get it twisted. I'm not saying composed in the sense of like keep your cards hidden, neglect how you're feeling. That's not what I'm talking about. It's simply just you having control, understanding, awareness, just taking charge over your emotions so that they don't run you, okay? Remember that you are the person in complete control of your life. You are in charge of how you feel. Again, if you don't believe me, circle back to that example of the two scenarios. Two separate people could be experiencing the same exact thing, but they have two different takeaways from the situation, thus deciding how they feel. You are giving meaning to everything in your life, which is then what evokes emotions and thoughts within you, okay? You can decide your thoughts, which therefore dictate your actions. You decide what meaning you want to give things, okay? And the power is in your hands. I also want to remind you that I do have a wellness retreat coming up in November of this year. So if you are really interested in this podcast, you love what I talk about, these topics really resonate with you, I can promise you, you will resonate for sure with the other beautiful women that are coming on this retreat, as well as the other topics that we will be diving into and the practices we will be diving into on the retreat. So it is happening November 9th to the 15th in northern Thailand, and I will have the trip page linked down below. I will be hosting 6 different workshops with you guys directly in person, one-on-one, and then of course I will be not one-on-one, but like in a group setting. And then of course I will be with you guys every step of the way on the retreat. We'll be traveling together, going to an elephant sanctuary, doing some waterfall hikes, having a Thai massage, whitewater rafting, a lot of fun things. I would really love to see you there. And also, if you have made it this far in the episode and you're still listening, I'm sure that means that you like this podcast in some shape or form, and I'm hoping that means you got at least some sense of value to keep watching. So if you could take 2 seconds and leave a rating or a review, it's completely free, and it's just a great way to support this podcast and myself as a creator. So thank you guys so much for your time. I'm sending you so much love, and hopefully I'll see you guys in my next epi. Peace out.